What's up everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be baking sourdough bread and split pea soup. This is just something I made for dinner a few nights ago, and this is the first time that I am making a stretch and fold artisan sourdough bread. I got this recipe off of the Farmhouse on Boone blog. She also has a whole video about it, and so I'll link both the recipe on her blog and the video down below, so that way you can get all of the exact measurements. But this was my first time making it. It makes 2 loaves, and I was so shocked at number one, how easy it is, but how amazing it turned out. Now that I tried this and had such great success, I'm definitely going to be making a few loaves in order to prepare for when my first baby comes. And so I'm going to make some and freeze them so that way we can actually have these loaves to eat with crock pot meals or just soups in general. So I mixed up all the ingredients after weighing them all out, and after letting that sit for a little bit, then you start your series of stretch and pulls. And like I said, the full recipe will explain exactly how many you're supposed to do, but this is just footage of me every like 15 to 30 minutes doing these stretch and pulls or folds. I forget exactly what it's called. Then after you let it sit for a few hours and it doubles in size, this was late at night, like right before I was going to bed, you cut into 2, and I am flouring my little baskets and shaping the loaves. And then these are going to proof overnight, which I recently started to proof my sourdough overnight, and I really love it because you have much less room for error of overproofing. I feel like that kept happening to me, and my sourdough loaves would always look great until I got to the proofing stage, and then I would accidentally overproof them, but fridge proofing has been excellent. Now, the next morning, I decided to make bone broth with the ham bone that I had left over from Christmas dinner. So I knew from Christmas that I wanted to save the ham bone so I could make this split pea soup. And so I'm putting the ham bone that was just out of the freezer with some water, some apple cider vinegar, some bay leaves, and an onion. And I'm just going to pressure cook that for the 240 minutes. You could also slow cook this, but I just decided to pressure cook it because I didn't prepare enough to slow cook it for, a day or two. Now, after having my loaves in the fridge for a good amount of time, I believe I put them in at like 11 p.m. the night before, and then this is like 3 or 4 o'clock the next day. I pulled them straight out of the fridge and dusted the top with flour, and then I was doing the little designs, which I am so new at doing designs. So I'm actually surprised how good these designs turned out without me having like any practice. I pulled my Dutch oven out of the oven. It had been preheated to 500, so that way it was hot. And I put the first loaf in there, added a few ice cubes, and I think that baked for about like 20 minutes at 500 degrees. And then you take the lid off, which it just looks so beautiful. And then you bake it at 475 for about another 20 or 25 minutes. I think I kind of lost track of time, and so mine was in there for a little bit longer and got a little brown on the top, but it ended up still being delicious. Here I am straining my ham bone out of my broth, and I'm just gonna let that cool a little bit while I start working on the soup. Here is my first loaf of bread. I went ahead and like put my second loaf in, and gosh, this just looks so incredibly beautiful. And of course, you have to try bread. Like, you cannot bake a fresh loaf of bread. I did let it cool off, but you can't bake a fresh loaf of bread and not try it with some butter. I am just so incredibly proud of myself now that I have been at home and not working and just kind of preparing for baby to come. I have just been loving being a homemaker again and having the time to, keep my sourdough starter alive, bake fresh bread, make all these yummy meals. It's just been exactly like what I have been waiting for my entire life. So to start out with this soup, I had just gotten a basic recipe out of the Nourish Kitchen book that I have. So I'm starting with carrots and celery. I'm not doing onions because I still kind of have an aversion to cooked onions for some reason. I had soaked my split peas overnight because I've just been trying to get the most digestive properties out of everything. So I've been soaking like my grains and my oats and stuff. And then I'm adding the broth, some thyme, salt and pepper, and I'm going to let that cook for about an hour or so. Once the peas had gotten pretty soft, I was gonna blend it with my immersion blender, but I forgot my immersion blender broke and I didn't buy one yet. So I need to buy one. I just used my NutriBullet, but of course it didn't like work as well because you're just doing it in little increments. I then added the leftover ham that I had from the freezer from Christmas and some potatoes, and then I cooked it until the potatoes were done, and that was about the amount of time needed left for the peas to be totally finished. And so here is the finished soup. I went ahead and put it in some bowls because it was so hot. And we just ate this hearty soup with our fresh bread and butter. It was so delicious and a great way to use up like the ham bone or extra ham that you have from the holidays. I just had such a fun time baking, and I'm just so glad my bread turned out so great. I hope you guys enjoyed this cook with me, and I will see you all in another video soon. Bye everyone.